Hey everybody, welcome back to Mr. Finn's World History class. Saw some great timelines. I think we have a good idea of what we're dealing with as far as time and the order in which things are happening. I know we're talking about Egypt today. We've done a couple assignments about ancient Egypt. Today I'm going to tell you more about it. So, without further ado, Egypt itself is on, and you should know this now, the Nile River. And again, river and fresh water, whether it's a lake or rivers, is very important to our civilizations because we need a source of water if we're going to stay put in one place. And the Nile River is good for a lot of different reasons for the ancient Egyptians. So the Nile River is very important. Remember, the Nile River is where Egypt was, let's just say, based. This is where it's based. So, if I ask you a question of what river flows through Egypt, you will say the Nile River, because I think we're having a quiz coming up. Just letting you know, a little forewarning. Now, the Nile River. Why is Nile River important? Well, we already said it's very important for fresh water, but here's another thing that the Nile River does, which is great for the ancient Egyptians. It does something. It does this. It floods. Now, usually floods are very dangerous. If the water rises up too much, it can destroy property, it can take people away. It can be very dangerous for a lot of people and a lot of different reasons. However, in this case, floods can actually be very good because what the flood is going to do is it's going to do something called deposit silt. And silt is another word for a form of soil. And if you know anything about farming or if you know anything about planting, plants in any way, shape, or form, soil is what you use to help the plant grow. And so if you have the flood every year, the Nile River floods and it deposits, it puts out this silt, which is soil, that means that the ground can always be used to grow more crops, which means that you never have to worry about using up all of the soil in the ground and running out of food. So Egypt has a ready-made source of water and farmland that they can use over and over and over again, which is going to allow them to stay in one spot, to grow larger. They're going to become a major, major empire because mainly of this Nile River and its ability to help them out. Now, as we get into Egyptian history, the Nile River actually splits ancient Egypt in the beginning into two parts. So there's two parts of Egypt. Here they are. One is upper and one is lower. Not too difficult. One is upper Egypt, one is lower Egypt. And it's based on where they are situated or where they're placed on the Nile. So, at the mouth of the Nile, where it opens up into the Mediterranean, that is going to be lower. And you are going to see in the beginning, where the river begins, deeper in the heart of Africa, that is going to be considered upper Egypt. And Egypt is divided in the beginning until we get to around, and I'll put a year for us so we can see a date, around 3100 BC. Now remember, in the future, we're going to be going down in dates until we get to 0, and then we're going to be going back up. Around 3100 BC, we're going to see Upper and Lower Egypt become one. They're going to get united under this person that you might see on your quiz, King Menes. King Menes is going to unite Egypt. He's going to unite Upper and Lower Egypt, forming the first dynasty of Egyptian history. Now, a dynasty, just so we know, a dynasty is a family of rulers. That's how it's defined, family of rulers. And what does that mean exactly? Well, that means, imagine I am the king of world history class, and I have a child. That child would then eventually become the king of world history class. And then eventually his son or daughter would possibly be the king of world history class. And so on, based on family. So we don't have that dynasties today, because, for example, we have elections in the United States. And so when we have every 4 years a presidential election, we elect someone that is not related to the person in line. So imagine that if we had a dynasty today, President Trump would then have his son take over after him, and we would have no election. It would just be right on line with the family of rulers. And so King Menes is going to start his first dynasty in 3100 BC after he has united Upper and Lower Egypt. Now, Egyptian history is split into 3 parts, and they're not too complicated. So here we go. It starts with the Old Kingdom. So you have the Old Kingdom. This makes sense. Now follow me here. The Middle Kingdom and the New Kingdom. See, not too difficult. So on a quiz, I might ask you, how many kingdoms were there in Egyptian history? And you would say 3. I might say, name one of the kingdoms in Egyptian history, and you could say the Old Kingdom, New Kingdom, Middle Kingdom, any one. So again, have these in your notes because it would be on the quiz, possibly. Now, what does this look like? These kingdoms are going to go from 3100 BC down to around 1100 BC. That's a long time. That's almost 2,000 years, or it is 2,000 years. It goes a little past that. That is a very long time to have an empire or a civilization that is operating. And it's even around after 1100 BC. In fact, you can go to Egypt today. Egypt is still there. So, this long history is going to be based on a few things. We see for the first time something that's very important for running a civilization and an empire. One person cannot control a huge, vast amount of area. What we're going to see now is the forming of government. And so these government officials, you're going to have the person in charge. Let's just take King Menes to start. King Menes would have been known as who's at the head of the government? King Menes. He is going to be a pharaoh. In Egypt, the king is called a pharaoh. So let's just easy definition. He is a king. The Egyptians would view the king or the pharaoh as divine, a deity, someone who is religious, maybe a god. That's how they viewed him. He was that, in charge of everything. He had absolute power. But in order to get information to know what was going on in all parts of his empire, he had a government set up that would have something we would know as governors. You have governors. Today we have representatives, people that would be in charge of different areas, and they would all report back to him. And so this is the first time we're seeing a large unified empire. Because if you remember in ancient Samaria, every city-state was its own political unit, and they had to just control their little area. Egypt has a huge area. So how do you rule it all? Well, you install a government, and you have people who are in charge of different areas, and they report back to you, the pharaoh, and then you make the decision on how you want to do things. And so this is going to be important because this is the first time we see this, and it's really early on with our civilizations. Now, where we're going to end up today on this rundown of the beginning of Egypt is going to be hieroglyphics. Now, this is the word, hieroglyphics. If you remember with ancient Samaria, we saw the first language, which was cuneiform, which was that wedge-shaped writing. You have the definition in your notes. Hieroglyphics is going to be one step further. It is going to be now using pictures to represent letters. And so you can have more of a script, and you can have, everyone can read this. It's not as confusing for the people as this cuneiform was with the wedge-shaped writing. But hieroglyphics, and the reason why it's large here, is because of your assignment today. Now, you can do one of two things. Some people find it easier to go online and search hieroglyphics, and then you can use those hieroglyphics to complete the assignment. I also have this in case you cannot do that. I can hold this up to the screen, and you can pause it. And if you pause it, you can then use this as well. So you can either go online and find hieroglyphics, or you can use this sheet when you pause the video. Now, that way everyone can have hieroglyphics. So here's the assignment with our hieroglyphics. These pictures represent letters. So what you're going to do today is you are going to write your name in hieroglyphics. So you have all the letters. If you just type in hieroglyphics into Google, you can find a lot of different variations. And I want you to write out your full name, first and last, on a piece of paper. And I want you to make it at least larger than one line. So let's say this. If you have lined paper, because I really want to be able to see it, and I want the hieroglyphics a little bit larger. If you have normal lined paper, just out of your notebook, I want you to write your name using 2 lines. All right? That way, it's large enough for me to see. I can see the letters. I can see the hieroglyphics that you do, and you can get, full credit. No color involved this time. I just want you to write out your full name using these hieroglyphics, because I want you to see, what they look like and how it might look if you put a number of them together. So I'll see you next class. Have a great day.